All right, sports fans, how's everybody out there doing? William Martin coming at you one more time here on YouTube with another edition of the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge Podcast. In order to obtain the services of quarterback Deshaun Watson, the Cleveland Browns sent a king's ransom to the Houston Texans. In 2022, the Browns sent three first round picks to the Texans, as well as a third round pick in 2023 and a fourth round pick in both 2022 and 2024. But so far, the Browns have not gotten that much productivity out of their new franchise quarterback, as in a year plus in Cleveland, Watson has only appeared in 10 games. The NFL suspension last year that saw Watson only appear in the final six games for Cleveland. And the hope was all of that being in the rear view mirror heading into a new season for Watson. But after September 24th, he's only made one appearance in a game that was very brief when the Browns took the field last Sunday against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, it all started when Watson was scratched from the starting lineup just prior to Cleveland's Week 4 loss at home to the Baltimore Ravens, and it's been downhill ever since. Now you got the reports out there that Watson has a rotator cuff strain and that he also has a micro tear in his throwing arm. Now, there's no timetable for Watson's return, and honestly, it sounds like he's not going to be fully healthy at any point of this season going forward. Now, my big question is, was getting Watson worth the Browns mortgaging the future? Now, at the time, I will say yes, because if you're Cleveland, you've tried it so many times as far as trying to go out there and get that franchise quarterback. And I mean, we've seen the Browns not get it right so many times, so often in the draft. And they felt like, hey, all we needed was an MVP caliber player like Deshaun Watson to make things happen. Because let's not forget, Deshaun Watson was lighting it up with the Houston Texans, got them to two playoff appearances, had them up, in the divisional round 24 to nothing on the Kansas City Chiefs before things just completely fell apart. You're talking about a guy who nearly passed for 5,000 yards in 2020 and a guy who wasn't a legit MVP candidate, three-time Pro Bowler, you name it. 104 touchdown passes in 4 seasons with the Texans. But of course, it has not been the case for Watson here so far. So at the time, it looked great on paper as far as making this move if you're the Browns, but they have not. It just has not come to fruition for the Cleveland Browns with Watson. And the question is at this point, will the Browns ever get the version of Watson that they traded for? And I'm not sure because shoulder injuries are so sensitive and it all depends on rehab. Is there going to be surgery needed? You name it. So we really have to sit back and wait and see, if that arm is going to be what it once was. And then of course, playing in the AFC North, playing in Cleveland, those November, December, and January games, is Deshaun Watson going to have the arm strength to make those key deliveries on passes when needed? We've got to sit back and wait and see. But on the flip side of this trade, you look at it like this: Cleveland's first round pick originally in 2022 turned into Jordan Davis for the Philadelphia Eagles as that pick was traded by the Texans to Philly. And then Houston made a trade and was able to select guard Kenyon Green. And then Cleveland's first round pick from this past draft that allowed the Texans to trade up to with the Arizona Cardinals to get Will Anderson Jr. So now these Cleveland picks, obviously, that aside from the Deshaun Watson trade not working out for them so far, these Cleveland picks are going out there and they're helping other teams build their future. The Philadelphia Eagles got a stud on the defensive line in Jordan Davis. The Houston Texans were able to use that pick to move up to go out there and get Will Anderson Jr., who and in most cases was the best defensive player available heading into this past spring's NFL draft. So, I mean, without Watson in this lineup right now, the Browns are hanging tough in the AFC North. They're 4-3. They're a game and a half behind the Baltimore Ravens for first place in the division. Everybody else is 4-3 in this division. Pittsburgh, as well as Cincinnati, and of course, Cleveland lost to Pittsburgh with Deshaun Watson, but then they also were able to beat Cincinnati to begin this season. And you look at the way that the Browns are playing, and I know that they lost a heartbreaker yesterday on the road to the Seattle Seahawks, but this Browns team is bringing it. And I mean, you figure no Watson, no Nick Chubb. They brought back Kareem Hunt at running back. But then you look at this defense. Nobody has allowed fewer yards so far in the NFL this season than the Cleveland Browns. This Jim Schwartz led defense, they know how to create pressure, they know how to wreak havoc, and they know how to make life uncomfortable for opposing quarterbacks, along with throwing off the timing of those offenses. And I mean, you just look at Miles Garrett. 8.5 sacks so far. He's playing like a defensive player of the year candidate. And you just have to wonder where this Cleveland team could be if they had a healthy Watson. But even with that said, when Deshaun Watson was out there, he was not exactly lighting it up. So even, if Watson is healthy, you're still skeptical to say, you know what, that this trade was and is going to work out for the Cleveland Browns. But so far, this is another case of buyer beware for the Browns. Credit to Kevin Stefanski, because throughout all of the injuries, he's been able to keep this team on the level, keep them focused on what they need to do. Like I said, they're 4-3. They're right in the mix of things as far as the AFC North. They also have a possibility of getting to the postseason as a wild card. Some big games coming up for Cleveland. They got Arizona this Sunday at home, and this is a game that obviously people are going to say, well, the Browns will be favored. Yes, but from what we've seen so far, you better pack a lunch if you're going to beat the Arizona Cardinals this season. And then right after that, in consecutive weeks at Baltimore, and then home for Pittsburgh. So the Browns, they're going out there, they're fighting, scrapping, and clawing. They're doing the necessary things, especially on the defensive end of the field. But for this offense, what could it have been if Deshaun Watson had been healthy? What could it have been if the Browns had gotten the Deshaun Watson that they expected to get when they made that big deal with the Houston Texans last year? So far, it has not worked out for the Browns and Deshaun Watson, and he is definitely looking like a trade bust. So, folks, that is going to wrap it up. And as always, I want to take this time out to thank you for tuning into the 300 Pounds of Sports Knowledge podcast here on YouTube. I want to take this time out to thank all of you fine folks out there for tuning in. And if you have not already, please feel free to subscribe to this channel. Now, if you're on the X, formerly known as Twitter, please feel free to follow me at 300 Pounds of Sports. And like I always say, if you follow me, it'll be my pleasure to follow you right back. There's also the sports discussion group on Facebook at the Sports Depot 365. Now, you can check it out. Drop a line and be a part of one of the better sports debating sites going on social media. So, once again, fine folks, my name is William Martin, and I am signing off. And I'm saying take care and have yourselves a wonderful day.